And with time, I've learned not to dismiss my own talent and my own place in the bigger scheme of things. Because it's easy for that to derail you. It's easy for you to then want to present like everybody else.
Welcome to Braving It, a platform where I get to have brilliant, brave conversations with people who are doing exceptionally well in their line of work. Why brave? Brave because I'm asking them to be vulnerable. What is vulnerability? It is uncertainty, it's risk, it's emotional exposure. And so on this journey, I'm really saying, make courage the epicenter of who you are. So we'll be dabbling and talking about emotions like fear, anxiety, self-doubt, that imposter syndrome that keeps reminding you that you are not good enough. So today I'm sitting with a very special human being. Someone who is graced, poised, highly favored by God.
Oh, wow.
You are a ministry of light. That is actually the words that come to me every time I see you on TV, I hear you on radio. You are a ministry of light. And so thank you for braving it with us today.
Oh,
thank you
wow.
for coming.
That's really generous of you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, actually.
I've wanted to say that to you for the longest time.
Really?
And I'm just so grateful that I get
receive
to do
it.
today.
Thank
Receive
you.
it.
I receive it. Was that a little bit of a moment of imposter syndrome? Like, surely me? No, could never be.
No, but
maybe it was a moment,
I
you know?
think so. I think All right, so just a bit of intro for those who are living under rocks.
Yes.
And for the sake of formalities. Wow, Azania, you are phenomenal. We know you from the mainstream media and quite recently from online media as well.
Yeah.
So history says that you were a radio host on Metro FM once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you moved to Power FM.
Yes.
And then you also were a talk show host on Real Talk, SABC3. Mm-hmm. And then you're now on 702, and you've got a whole show called Unplugged. And of course, you are an entrepreneur, having co-founded Miss Salon London, which is a nail and beauty empire. I'm going to call it that. And of course, you grace many stages. You are an MC, you are a keynote speaker. And now you have a podcast of your own that you've launched, dubbed Interiority Podcast, which is conversations with Black people about the inner world of Black people and about Blackness and its enormity. We are enormous, so I suppose we deserve a whole show.
We do.
We are enormous.
So many stories.
When I was preparing this, again, you do a lot. I was taking stock of everything that you do. I also discovered that you are a breathwork practitioner in the making.
In the making.
That's what I said, in the making.
Yes.
Right? In the making.
Still in training.
Still in training. And so I thought, at which point do you take that breath before you begin your hectic schedule? Is it before the day begins? Is it throughout the day? When do you actually do breath work?
It is throughout the day. I suffered from burnout a few years ago. So when you say you do everything, there's a consequence to that. And breathwork came into my life through a series of events in my life. And when I was seeking healing, resolution to these things that were happening, the counselor that I ended up with, the therapist that I ended up with, ended up being an integrative medical practitioner. So she is a medical doctor by training, but the way in which medicine is done wasn't satisfactory to her because her understanding, and as we know as Africans as well, someone's health is their entire being. It's not just what their body is saying. It's not just about this ache or it's not about that headache. There's so much more to why we present with illness or why we present with the things that happen to us. And so she then trained to be a breathwork practitioner herself.
Okay.
So she runs Breathwork Africa, which now is this body that helps to certify and train people like me who are absolutely persuaded and convinced that, and just I've experienced the power of the breath. So I'm absolutely moved by it, and I'm evangelical about it, to the point where this is something I needed to delve deeper into and learn more about, to the point of becoming a practitioner.
Wow. When you said burnout,
Yeah.
I can relate to that on so many levels. I mean, I am a corporate baby, so I come from traditional corporate. I served for 10 years. And you know, the marketing fraternity is hectic.
Yeah.
If you're familiar
Yeah.
with marketing, comms, advertising, we are always on the run and everything is urgent. And so I want to believe, look, I wasn't diagnosed as having had burnout, but the symptoms alluded to that. So what sort of symptoms did you experience, and at which point did you realize, you know what, I need to go get help?
You're spot on. You don't need necessarily a diagnosis for you to know that the way your life is going, how you feel in your life, is not the way you should be feeling. For instance, everything around me was the picture of success. It was the picture of just ambition and doing well. My kids were great. Just everything around me. The business was doing well. I was throwing everything into it. My career, I had successfully transitioned from music radio to talk radio. So over a couple of years, it was just a picture of that success. My plans were systematically working out. But working 7 days a week, always being on the run, eating badly, because that's a consequence as well. You just deprioritize the things that you need. I was unhappy, even though I should be happy, because the picture says this is the life of someone who's got it going on. But I was unhappy. I was built that there was a resentment growing in me towards these things that were taking me away, just weighing me down, tiring me out. So they start becoming joyless. You're showing up, but it's not joyous anymore. So then resentment, it's easy for resentment to build towards those things. You know, you wake up and you think, oh, I've got to go do this thing, but I would much rather lay here and be gentle with myself. And these are words I always used to say. So I always used to think that I knew what living healthy, living well was, but I thought I was doing it, but I wasn't doing that. So I was definitely exhausted, emotionally and physically exhausted. Couldn't have a full night's sleep, for instance, and if I did, I had taken a sleeping tablet to be able to get through a full night's sleep, because without it, then my sleep is interrupted because the mind's so busy.
And how often would you take a sleeping tablet in a given week?
I would say probably 4 nights out of a week, you know, just to make sure that you are switching off completely, because the mind does keep going, it keeps running. So your sleep is not restful as it should be. And then even just a detachment, you have this emotional detachment to and disassociation from the things that are happening, the success, the joy, the challenging things as well. There's just this detachment. And sometimes I used to think, am I depressed? Maybe it's depression. But all of them collectively just proved to be burnout. And so after that, I decided to make a difference. Slowly but surely, started hiking, started doing the breath work, started really being committed to my yoga, and all of those practices slowly, I started to self-regulate better and be more honest about what I'm willing to do, what I can do, and what I can't do, and being okay with what I can't do. Because part of it was feeling guilt, thinking, I need to be driven. I need to wake up every morning and do 1,000 things. That's what the world messages to you.
Hours.
The world messages to you that, what, you're resting? Wait, you're not supposed to be resting. That's the messaging that we have. And at the same time, you shouldn't be resting. You should be running around all the time and doing everything to perfection, doing everything to 100%, you know. And that, when you sit and think about it, is simply not practical. Something has to give. So in this case, what gave was me, you know. What gave was just being emotionally and physically exhausted.
Wow. I can relate on so many levels. So many levels. You want to put your best foot forward all the time.
Yeah.
You want to come across as being completely 100% committed, you know, always looking to impress. I think a lot of it has to do with just that first impressions, impressing people, coming across as a certain type of person. Talking about tension, I've got a question. So, in my introduction earlier on, I spoke about you gracing many stages, whether you are gracing it from a master of ceremony perspective or you're a keynote speaker.
Yeah.
You know, this art of public speaking is not for all of us. Let's be honest.
Okay.
75% of the population is very scared of public speaking. It's a real phobia.
Yeah.
What do they call it? They call it glossophobia. And it's gripped 75% of the population out there. Enough that it is the one fear that most people rank higher than death itself. Do you still find that you struggle a little bit with anxiety and fear prior to you engaging on public platforms? I know you're established now, but was it a struggle maybe in the beginning?
No.
Or do you still struggle with anxiety?
I still struggle. When you say a little, that is an understatement. A little is an understatement, in fact. Firstly, I don't think it's something, the 25% that you speak of, and I'm not going to commit to the numbers because I simply don't know.
This was the
but I think
National
the people,
Institute of Mental Health, but
okay.
as collab.
But the people who do,
Yeah.
who maybe fall in the 25%, a huge number of them, I suspect, also still have that anxiety about public speaking. It's just what you do with it. It's just what happens, what you choose to do in that moment with that anxiety. Every single day when I switch on that mic, I'm switching it on with my anxiety sky high, with my fear levels sky high, with questions of doubt. Is this going to work? Is this show going to work today? Is this content going to take off today? Are people going to respond? Is it going to be, you know, is it going to flop? So every single day I switch on the mic with that question in mind, with those emotions going through me. And they never go. When I'm emceeing, for instance, I can be as well prepared, which is, I love preparation. Preparation is a must.
Me too. Yeah.
And then you have to step on the stage and deliver what you've been preparing on.
Yeah.
And there's never a stage that I've stepped on where I wasn't anxious, where I haven't been anxious. I didn't enjoy the experience. However, the ones where I have been anxious, I thoroughly enjoy it. Or the enjoyment levels, the satisfaction levels, rather, are higher.
After all of that pre-production and you step on stage and you deliver what you do, now you have to get off and live with yourself. Get off stage and live with yourself and what you've just delivered on. One of the struggles that I find I have is that intense self-critique afterwards. And so I'm wondering, do you get off stage sometimes? Do you walk off and you feel, what was that?
The same thing.
Really?
I feel exactly the same thing. I'm very hard on myself.
Okay.
Very hard on myself, to the point where sometimes I don't even believe the good feedback. You know? Like, no, they're just saying that.
Yeah, they're just being
saying
nice.
that. Like, they're just being nice.
You
You
know.
I know it wasn't. Or, you know, so I definitely also feel that all the time. And what I wanted to say to you about that, it never, or rather, it's about whether or not it stops you. I always say to my family when I come back from these things, I don't know why I do these things. Why do I accept these gigs? Because look at me, it turns me into a wreck. You know, I always say that. It turns me into a wreck. So why do I do it? Why do I do this to myself in the days, in the pre-prod that you're talking about, in the researching, in the scripting, in all the work that you do ahead of time, and your delivery and thinking it out and running around, organizing this and that. The stress over a series of days leading up to the moment, I always think, is it worth it? Because here I am feeling so knotted and so stressed.
And you have no appetite.
Not sleeping well, no appetite. Exactly. But then afterwards, and then I say, when I complain, I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it any other way. Because I feel like that's where I feel most alive. I feel, that's why I do radio as well. Same thing, that I wouldn't have it any other way, because I feel so switched on. You feel like everything there is to feel all the time when you're doing that.
Yeah.
So choosing life without those things, for me, just seems like it would be less alive,
Yes.
that feeling of less
Yes.
alive. And then it's the stuff also that grows me. I'm on the edge all the time. I feel like I'm on the edge all the time. Or I go to the edge frequently enough. Because that is an edge. For me, I go to the, it means going to the edge frequently enough for you to feel stretched, you know. I read something the other day that said, you should go beyond your comfort zone, but not past your terror.
Ooh.
So whatever that is for you in life, in order to grow, you have to go beyond your comfort zone, but not past your terror. So the edge is in there somewhere. Because if you go past your terror, then you could really break yourself.
Yeah.
You could break. But if you're on your edge, you are at your edge, and you spend life at the edge, there's so much growth that is born out of that. So I always think, yeah, okay, that's why I do it. Fine, that's why I do it. It doesn't mean I'm not going to feel the same again after that. I will feel about it like the same about it again. I can, you know, I can promise you that. But for now, I'm making peace with it. Let's, making peace with it.
It is rewarding. You know, there's a few people who do what, in this case, I'm going to say you, who do what you do. And they're doing it well. They're doing it brilliantly. And we're talking about radio, TV personalities who come up. Every day there's a fresh face that we are confronted with on our television screens. And they're doing really, really well. And so the question is, you've been in this space for a very long time. Do you find that there's moments when you feel like what you have to offer is no longer good enough for the industry?
I think not anymore. There was a time, I think, when I was younger for sure, when you would wonder about how do you stay relevant.
Yes.
But the way you sought to answer that question was different from the way I seek to answer it now.
Okay.
So before, obviously, it was about looking around and saying, oh, that one got that, so is it because of the look? Is it because of the package or how they do it? Is it because of that management? Do you know what I mean? And thinking, oh, I need to get me some management. I need to get me a weave. I need to get me those shoes with the red bottom. You know, is it because of the perception around them and what's being built? You know, the perception that's being put forward about who this person is and what they do. And with time, I've learned not to dismiss my own talent and my own place in the bigger scheme of things. Because it's easy for that to derail you. It's easy for you to then want to present like everybody else and be part of the conveyor belt. And I think when you do stand apart, then that in itself is appealing. Because now you're not standing among a whole lot. You're standing apart. And so the way I carved out my career, for instance, I did have a plan for it. And I wanted to learn as much as I could in music radio. And I spent 14 years working for one station, learning everything I could about music radio. But the time came where I outgrew that. And the idea was always to progress and broaden myself as a broadcaster and get into talk radio, which then will also facilitate or precipitate other opportunities as a result. And so when you look at my generation, for instance, my progression has not gone like in the same way as the progression of other people. And so I was quite deliberate to transform myself, to keep transforming myself and to be mindful of where I wanted to go versus having a career that is driven by the industry whims. Because the industry does have its whims. Today this is cool, tomorrow it's not. Today this is what we're looking for, tomorrow it's not. I mean, I was approached by a producer who asked me to come and audition to be part of a TV show. And I said to him, I'm not an actor. I'm not an actor. And I know when I sat back and reflect on it, that was my immediate instinct. I didn't even need to think about it. I didn't need to think about it. And in the end I said, for me to go from where I'm sitting and go and step in front of a camera and execute a whole scene, play a character, and be in people's homes and so on, I would deem it as a disrespect to those who do this craft, who have studied this craft, who live and breathe it. I watch content, yes, with the critical eye, I enjoy it and so on, but do I want to be the one who's telling the story as an actor? No, I don't. And so, but there was a time, of course, when everybody was getting into acting. People from different disciplines were now suddenly actors. So it was clear, for me it was clear that this is not part of my vision, this is not who I am, and it's not a skill set that I want to develop, you know. So thanks, but no thanks. But I know for sure that it could have been a temptation for many other people who perhaps haven't sat down to do enough self-introspection, self-awareness work on what it is they want ultimately. But absolutely there was a time when you're thinking, oh, maybe I should do that. What? Maybe I should do that. Definitely.
Sure. It's funny because literally a lot of people would look at that when called for such a platform opportunity. We're like, yo, look at what God is doing in my life, guys.
Oh my goodness. That's funny.
Wang tata la wang bega leg.
Now we're on TV sets as well, but can we? I don't know about that.
Hashtag do not limit God, you know?
And I thought, oh, maybe I could act and I'm not exploring it, but no, it's not my truth.
You know who you are.
Yes.
And God has already revealed it to you. Jim Carrey once said that the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency that there is. So the question is, in the talents that you've been apportioned, and I say talents, plural, what effect do you hope to leave in people's hearts and minds every day?
Oh my goodness, that's such a big question, because you mentioned ego earlier on. I always think that we need to check our ego and remember that it's not me doing the touching. It's not me doing the touching. There's another force at play, and that's what deserves the credit, not me. And so when people pay you that compliment, what do you do with it? When people criticize you, what do you do with it? So I've trained myself, and I'm constantly training myself to not make either of those things define me, because the praise could be gone today, and all you could be left with is the criticism. What's left of you if you define yourself by, oh, Azania, we love you, we love your show, oh my God, this is what it did for me. Oh, you know, if we define ourselves by that, then I think we're dead in the water. For instance, the Metro audience was really amazing, fun, generous, always up for monad, you know. Got to Power, and Power was rigorous, you know, very rigorous, very dynamic. But there was also a lot of people were nice to you. And then I got to 702. 702 is the harshest audience I have ever worked in front of, because that's what it is.
Okay.
I wake up every day to go do my work in public. You know, people don't get, for instance, our cameramen here today, they don't do their work in public. They don't get critiqued and marked live every day, right? And so that's when I got to really understand this notion of this needing praise, needing validation in order for you to wake up every day happy to come and do what you do. That critique, how it leaves you afterwards. And then in the same vein, that praise, how it leaves you afterwards, right? So it's important, I think, to have that humility about your own impact. Is it your impact, or are you simply a vessel? Are you simply a vessel? So when I do say my prayers, I always say, speak through me. Speak, say whatever you want to say, say it through me. Put me where I need to be so that I can do the work that you have placed me here to do. Because we need to be mindful. I don't think it's my doing. Some of the luck that you have along the way. some of the twists of destiny that happen in your life are not entirely your doing. So it's a combination of like luck, coincidence, of just divine intervention over your life. So to walk around thinking, when I'm done, I want people to say this about me because I did that. No, you did not do that. You did not do that. So
you were a prop in all of this.
I've been a mouse.
Actually.
I'm just a mouth through all of a brain connected to a mouth, with an operating system at the back doing its thing. Like, this is what you say. Go there. Do this. Say that. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right. So the world is shifting, Azania.
Yeah.
The world is shifting online. And in the shifting, we're now buying online. We're learning online. We are sharing our lives online. What worries you the most about this online shift?
I have such a contradictory relationship with the online world. I love it and I hate it. Okay. It's utopia and it's dystopia. What's this, 2020? In 2017, my daughter was cyberbullied on Twitter.
I saw that.
30,000 tweets in the space of a Sunday, the 22nd of October, 2017. 30,000 tweets about me, about her mostly, but when I jumped in to defend her, then some of that was directed at me. And the online space it can be incredibly powerful, it can transform lives, it's connected people. There was this guy, Wiseman, who was duped by a motorist who said, fill up my tank 210. Yeah. And the petrol attendant fills up the tank for 210. And this guy's filming this whole thing where he gives him 2 10-rand notes. And so the belief was that he would have to then pay for this bill. People on social media came together. They contributed 210 rands. I did the same too for Wiseman. So social media can be an incredible force for good. At the same time, it can destroy lives. I did a TED Talk last year sharing the lessons that I learned out of that experience when my daughter was cyberbullied. It has literally transformed our lives. It's changed her, it's changed me, it's changed our relationship, and it's changed potentially our path. And it's destructive. Social media can be absolutely destructive, which is something that people don't see. So she subsequently suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of that. So coming online, being defined by a life online is not all it's cut out to be.
Yeah.
What we do, what we say, and our use of social media is not innocuous. It's not innocent, or it's not harmless, I should say. And then you look at the consequences of Facebook on countries like Myanmar and the Rohingya Muslims. The consequences of the like button, for instance, on Instagram, and the pressure that young people feel, the levels of suicides amongst young girls that have gone up as a result of how their profiles are received, or how they've been cyberbullied on social media, have gone up. Are our kids growing up fully developed in how they connect with other people? I don't think so. You can feel a shift. That's why I love breathwork so much, because it makes you aware. You become embodied.
Yes.
You become more aware of your body. You get out of your mind and you're able to pay more attention to your body. But when you get onto social media, you can literally feel a shift and a change in your emotions. And that also tells you about how you are changing, that it elevates your anxiety. Social media elevates your anxiety. The news coming out of you, the anger on Twitter, for instance, it impacts you. Feelings of feeling like you're inadequate when you look at Instagram and the lives that people are putting out, and you're thinking, oh, my life's not great, is it? So you start to feel inadequate. You can literally feel a shift. So if you're not aware of these things, you use these mediums blindly. They have an effect on you without your awareness. At least if you have some awareness, it might minimize the impact
Yeah.
in any moment when you're interacting on these platforms. Facebook, for instance, in Myanmar, people thought Facebook was the internet. And so when a particularly negative narrative started emerging about the Rohingya Muslims, started emerging, people then acted towards this particular group. And they became destitute, a ship that nobody wanted in the region full of refugees, all because of rhetoric or all because of the way in which these algorithms work in putting you in an echo chamber about an opinion or a view. And so I think it is one of the most harmful things to have happened to modern human beings.
Sure.
That's how strongly I feel about it.
Sure. Because you've experienced it, you've lived it.
Yeah.
Firsthand.
So I visit it minimally, with caution, with just an ounce of cynicism, you know, an ounce of awareness about what can go wrong, what is going wrong in that time. And that's the thing, do you switch off? Do you switch off and get off and live a life of not being on social media?
Sure.
Perhaps you do. Perhaps there is more peace in that, minimizing how much interaction or how much our identities are shaped by it. Perhaps that's what we need to do, because it's harmful.
And so my question now also is, how is your daughter doing and how is she coping?
She has taught me lots of lessons in parenting, in just being a human being. I had said to her, get off this thing, stay off it. And she's like, why? I have nothing to hide. I'm not the wrongdoer.
Yes.
So she's one of my greatest teachers because of her courage. She was more courageous than I was, because my inclination or my instinct at the time was to never return. You know, like go and live, hide away somewhere, live a recluse life away from these mobs on social media. And that's what they are. And no, she stepped back into who she is, and she's even more expressive of who she is, in terms of owning how she wants to be seen. She doesn't care. She puts down the haters with such wit. She's always been someone who's got quite a tongue on her, so she's very witty and funny. And gradually with time, I think she's attracting, people love her. There's a magneticism that I was trying to deny of her. Like I was trying to say to her, dim your light, you know, because she hadn't done anything wrong. We were sugelwa nje. And now because of that light, and I was saying to her, dim that light. And she outright refused. And for me, that is a big, big lesson in, once again, not allowing the world to dictate who you are, how you feel about yourself, or how you should move through this world. So she's doing well. She's doing her, not in a way that I would have liked, for sure. And once again, it's another lesson in a reminder that our kids are not here to be mini you. She's not here to be a mini me. And she's here to fulfill her own purpose and live her own path, however that will evolve. So for me, when I pray, I always say she is life's will. She's God's will to fulfill. Like God is fulfilling his vision for her life. Not, and I was just here as a caretaker, you know. So let that vision unfold. Let it unfold in her life. Let that purpose unfold in her life. And that is as simple as that, whatever that may be.
And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you know, you have a brave child, and I think it has a lot to do with who you are and what you've allowed in your home as well. Who would you like to see braving it on this platform? If you were to watch the show, who would you enjoy hearing
Who
from?
am I curious about, and how they've braved it?
Yeah.
I tend to love people, I'm curious anyway, about the world that artists occupy.
Okay.
Yes.
Artists, musicians, or
Art
painters?
in general.
Art.
All art.
All art.
All
okay.
art in general. And one of my favorites, one of my faves, like she's right up there. She's right up there. She said, I want you in my concubine. I would be there. It's Thandiswa Mazwai.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think she's quite a force, and
She
I would be
is.
curious to know the place that she operates from to do what she does, in order to do what she does.
And she's moved beautifully over the years, hey? So beautifully. Azania, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
I felt like I was having a conversation with an older sister.
Oh, good.
Yes.
That's how I'm cast anyway, as the older sister.
Is it really? Quite literally, it didn't feel like an interview. You were willing to go there with me. There were a lot of lessons that I picked up as well from this conversation. It was easy. You made it comfortable and easy, so thank you.
That's one of my talents, by the way.
Really?
People always say that to me, like, I was so nervous, but no, you know, you made me feel so relaxed. I forgot that we were doing an interview.
Wow.
I get that feedback all the
It's
time.
the healer in you, hence
Perhaps.
the breath work that comes so naturally. It's the healer.
And
that's
it's not
coming through.
something I'm not even aware I'm doing. It's just
Wow.
what they say.
Oh no, take it, take it, take it, take it. All right, let me close the show. Guys, thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Azania, for gracing us with your presence, given your massive schedule. But here you are. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for watching the episode. Please share your comments with us below. Thank you for watching. I'm Lerato Disego, and I hope you'll tune in again.